Mike's on, and we'll call our meeting to order and let the minutes reflect all managers are here with the exception of Manager Hockey with prior notice. So the next thing we'll do is set the agenda. Anybody like to add or change the agenda today?
Board President, Board of Managers, staff had no changes this morning.
Okay, if not, we'll have a motion.
Madam President, I move that we accept the agenda.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Next thing is approval of the minutes, February 27th, regular meeting minutes.
Madam President, I move to approve the February 27th, 2019 regular meeting minutes.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And the February 27th workshop.
Madam President, I move to approve the February 27th, 2019 workshop minutes.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And the February 28th draft WMP workshop.
Madam President, I move to approve the February 28th, 2019 draft water management plan workshop.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Open mic. I see none in the audience today, but if anybody comes in, we certainly will address them. Next thing is items requiring board action. I believe Matt Koshin is going to do a presentation. Oh, we're.
Okay, Madam Chair, members of the board, thank you for having me. For this first part, I'll be playing the part of Kyle Axtell, who's out today. So I'll be talking about his Bald Eagle Lake Iron Enhanced Sand Filter Project. This is one of two Bowser grants. We discussed this at the recent board workshop. Kyle is the project manager for this, and then I'll be talking about the Lower Rice Creek Stabilization Project. Both of these being Bowser grants require Bowser work plans, which is what I'm here to present. So I have some slides to go over that. This is beginning on page 19 of your packet. There's a memo from Kyle that outlines it, so the slides just provide some additional detail here.
And for the audience, Bowser's Board of Soil and Water.
Thank you. Board of Water and Soil
By Water
Resources.
and Soil, thank you.
We have a lot of acronyms, yes.
Yes, okay.
So the Ramsey County Ditch 11 Iron Enhanced Sand Filter Project is shown here. The location of it is shown here. So the location is in White Bear Township, just to the southeast of Bald Eagle Lake. As the name implies, it is in line with Ramsey County Ditch 11. And this ditch drains water that would come from White Bear Lake if it were flowing out, but also a large portion of the downtown White Bear Lake, including like this Highway 61 corridor here and many of the residential areas south and east of Bald Eagle Lake. You can see on the right-hand diagram here the general conceptual layout of the project. Ramsey County Ditch 11 is flowing from the southeast to the northwest towards Bald Eagle Lake. The project proposes to capture the water in Ramsey County Ditch 11 and then actively pump that water into iron enhanced sand filter beds. So this is very similar to the Hanson Park project and the Oasis Pond project that we've worked on with Houston Engineering. By the way, Houston Engineering would be the engineer for this project also. Here's a diagram of the concept. So this is a little bit different here because north is to the left, but water would be coming through the ditch, pumped up in, falling down into a pond here, and there'd be a controlled outlet. The outlet control would be set at the elevation of the official ditch profile, and I'll mention that Houston Engineering is going to be working on the, Chris, help me out with the name of the...
We're completing a historical review of the drainage system right now to verify the as constructed condition of the ditch.
Thank
Now,
you.
again, a key component, as Matt's noting, so that we can make sure that all the infrastructure that be located along here is going to be working, I guess, in harmony with the as constructed condition of the ditch, and that we aren't going to run into any issues regarding potentially obstructing the ditch.
Thank you. On the left-hand side of the diagram, then you can see the iron enhanced sand filter beds. I think this is a concept. There's going to be either 2 or 3 of them. Hanson Park, there were 4. I think the Oasis Pond, there were 2. So it just all depends on the available land there. So the major components of the project, there is this new wet pond that will be constructed in line with Ramsey County Ditch 11, so there'll be some dead pond storage, water quality benefit there. But then the big part of it is the automated pumping into the iron-enhanced sand filter beds, which will capture particulate phosphorus and also dissolved phosphorus, which is very difficult to deal with. So the estimated benefits, we're reducing total phosphorus load by 43 pounds a year and total suspended solids by 1.4 tons per year. So here we have the fiscal summary breakdown. So the total grant amount was $392,000. White Bear Township is contributing anywhere from half an acre to 3/4 of an acre of developable upland real estate. So they own the property right now. They are contributing that property for the project. Rice Creek will match with $95,500 cash and some staff time for a total proposed project of $490,000. So the grant timeline, we're beginning essentially now, or in April. The grant goes through the end of December 2021, but we anticipate having construction done, or Kyle anticipates having construction done, spring or summer of 2020. So there is some leeway built in here if we encounter bad construction weather or something like that. I'll note that for both of these projects, Bowser requires assurances, basically committing the Watershed District, the owner of the project, to 25 years of operation and maintenance. So although we will not own any of the land where the projects are built, we will have access to the site and be required to inspect and maintain it. And as I mentioned, the city is providing the up to 3/4 acres of developable land. So the staff are requesting that the board approve the draft work plan that's provided in your packet here. This will be submitted to Bowser today, and they'll review that. Once Bowser approves the work plan, Kyle's going to be meeting with White Bear Township to get agreements in place for access. And then the grant agreement with Bowser will happen in April. So the memo on page 19 has the proposed motion. And are there any questions?
Madam President,
Sure.
I don't remember seeing ditch 11 on our list of creeks or ditches to be repaired in the future. I mean, you're gonna make sure it's the right level where you're installing this. Are there issues about the rest of that creek?
Madam President, Manager Waller.
Pardon me, Manager
or
Bradley.
Manager Bradley, I'm sorry.
Let's not burden Manager Bradley with that mistake.
Thank you for that upgrade.
Yes, definitely an upgrade. It's a B, not a W.
I think I was expecting that kind of question from Manager Waller. And it was a very good question. That is a ditch system that we have identified as being in the minor maintenance category. It's one that we haven't recognized that it has a substantial depth of sediment or that there's any sort of immediate need for a repair on the system, although it is, as with any of the systems, they all require maintenance from time to time. And certainly there are going to be locations on that system that do need to have trees removed and potentially some culverts replaced. But it isn't in that kind of similar need as one of the other systems that we've been doing the major repairs. Now, one thing I will note regarding the proposed project is that the pond that Matt was talking about in there not only will provide a water quality benefit, but it will also address water quantity. It's going to provide some attenuation of flows going down into RCD 11, which will have the combined benefit of potentially decreasing the potential for flooding along there, but also decreasing the amount of scour that's going to occur on RCD 11, which will also provide an additional water quality benefit and a maintenance benefit as well by attenuating that flow. We haven't calculated how much that attenuation is, but we do know that it's a fairly substantial amount of storage that's there in comparison to the size of the watershed upstream.
I do have a question, Matt, and maybe you don't know the answer to this yet, but, and maybe Phil will. How do we adjust our budget to accommodate everything that we're doing now in, let's say, 25 years of maintenance? How are we projecting that out, and how are we putting it into our budget?
Yes, President Priner, Board of Managers, this will become a district facility, similar to what we've done like with Onika Ridge Golf Course. That's now a district facility that you annually budget for, similar to the parts of the Hanson Park project, the iron enhanced sand filter system. Are not only going to be, we're required by the contract with Bowser, but we incorporated those into the district facility. So
Okay.
they'll be inspected by our staff in that program. They'll be identified in the GIS to make sure that we keep geo-references of them. We'll put them in our database along with our public drainage system and other district facilities so that we can inspect those and track that and record that. And then when they need maintenance, we will utilize that, that funding that you've already have traditionally had
Maintenance.
to continue to maintain these systems for the required amount.
Okay, thank you.
I just got a curiosity question on that. You know them iron enhanced, the filter beds themselves? Why do they have three separate beds instead of like one big one?
Madam Chair, Manager Wagaman, the three separate filter beds allow them to be used in series, so you'd use one for a certain amount of time, move to the next, and then go back to the first. The reason is the iron in the filter itself provides a chemical binding site or physical binding site for phosphorus, for dissolved phosphorus as the water is percolating down through the filter. But that binding action only happens when oxygen is present. So if the bed was waterlogged for too long a period of time, it's possible that oxygen could run out and then phosphorus could be stripped away from that iron and flow out. So it's to improve the efficacy of
Gotcha.
the
A lot more
project.
technical than I thought. I figured it'd be maintenance or
Must be one
something.
good reason.
Thank you.
Maintenance actually also is a good reason. If one of them failed for some reason or was plugged for some reason, you have others that you could rely
Right,
on.
that makes sense. Thank you.
Madam President.
Waller?
So, just for a little history here, because most of us weren't in the chairs we are at this time, except for Mr. Smith. He was present. And myself will remember that we did some minor maintenance on ditch number 11, probably about 15 years ago now. And
It was
so
hard work. I got tired.
I can tell you that. He probably had to put on gloves. But just to point that out, there's been some maintenance done it. And the second thing to point out here is that I think it's important to recognize that the location of this iron enhancement filter, sand filter, is downstream of that large wetland where most of the water is from the southeast and south part is emptied into from White Bear Lake's residential areas. And so you have the benefit not just of the residential area, but also of the phosphorus that's created by that large wetland that's either dissolved or undissolved to be caught there. So I think that's important to mention that we're have a double benefit, not just the residential streets and such. And with that,
Make a motion?
Yes, I would like to make a motion, if I could. Madam President, I move that we approve the draft work plan and timeline as presented, and we direct staff to submit the materials to BWSR for review and for their approval.
second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, then we'll go to Matt.
Madam Chair, members of the board, beginning on page 27, now we'll talk about the Lower Rice Creek work plan. This is the second Bowser grant that we're going to be working on in the next few years. So I'll provide a brief overview of that. So the impetus of this project are, I should say, water quality problems in Lock Lake and in Lower Rice Creek, mainly sedimentation. So Lock Lake has sediment that's accumulating in the eastern part of the lake. Also, the lower part of Rice Creek is impaired for biota, loss of habitat due to pool filling. So over the past few years, we've been working with Houston Engineering to determine sources of that sediment. And I'll just highlight here the primary source of sediment into Lock Lake and Lower Rice Creek is stream bank and bluff erosion, which is why we're focusing on stream bank stabilization in the lower part of Rice Creek. So just some photos to emphasize that point. We did diagnostic work and surveys in the lower part of the creek that identified stream bank and bluff erosion as being the primary source. These surveys also helped us to determine priority areas for where we might do stabilization based on bluff erosion potential and hazard and amount. So the area that we identified as the highest priority for stabilization is just downstream of Highway 65 in the city of Fridley. There's anywhere from 10 to 12 highly erodible stream banks in that area that we're proposing to stabilize with this project. So, in this project, we received a little over $568,000 in grant from Bowser. We would be matching that with a little over $142,000 in cash from Rice Creek, along with some staff time. We're proposing a total budget of $718,410. $718,410. The grant timeline is very similar to the Ramsey County Ditch 11 timeline. We would begin the work in April. The grant itself goes through December 2021, but we're proposing to be finished with construction in the winter of 2020. So, again, leaving some time just in case we have a bad construction year, which has seemed to happen past couple years. So with these 10 to 12 stream banks that we're going to be stabilizing, we're going to be using a number of different techniques, anywhere from a minimal impact design. This would be used on a stream bank that maybe has lower shear stress, doesn't quite need the protection as some of the others, so it would be relying more on plantings along with perhaps some rock toe protection. Those are relatively cheaper, all the way up to engineered in-channel designs using more rock, possibly using in-channel rock barbs to deflect flow away from stream channels, all the way up to hard armor. So this is the more typical, highly engineered, more rock, maybe with some plantings in it. So each of these different stream banks, we're going to be using different practices tailored to the needs of that stream bank based on the design work that will be done. So again, I'll just highlight that Bowser requires assurances also for this project so that it be maintained for 25 years. We do not own the land. The land is owned by the city of Fridley, and Rice Creek Regional Trail West is located on the property and run by Anoka County Parks. So we're going to be entering into an access agreement with the city of Fridley, who owns the land, and Anoka County Parks, who operates the land. But we will have access to the site for 25 years to do monitoring and maintenance. We don't anticipate major maintenance on a project like this. For stream restoration projects, typically the design standard is that they should last a long period of time. That's not to say that all 12 stream banks might last 25 years, but it's not a project where we anticipate annual or even every 2 or 3 years maintenance. So on page 27, we have a proposed motion, and I think that's what I have, if there are any questions.
Any questions, Matt?
Madam President, you mentioned in-stream rock bars to help control the speed of the, does that affect navigation, or do we have any concerns like we had with the Minnesota Railroad bridges as a result?
So there's, Madam Chair, Manager Bradley, I think there's two parts of the answer there. First, for navigation, the lower part of Rice Creek is no longer managed as a canoe trail. People still use it as a canoe trail, but I think typically structures like that are engineered so that they're sitting below water during very high flow. During low flow, when somebody's going to be moving through there slowly, they're not obstacles that a paddler couldn't get around. Second part of the question is, like Minnesota Commercial Railway, are there concerns for infrastructure?
I was concerned
Culverts,
about
crossings?
I was concerned about the kayakers coming through and hitting
Okay.
rock bar.
Okay. So the first part of the question is answered. Certainly the engineer would not be using structures that would deflect flow into culverts or anything like that or cause other erosion problems.
Do those require, because of the potential impact on the use of the, does that require further DNR approval or permits, or?
Madam Chair, Manager Bradley, no, those structures are typical stream bank stabilization structures. A DNR permit for the work will be required here, but it's not nearly the level of permit that was required, say, for the Middle Rice Creek meander restoration project. This is many levels below that in terms of complexity and permitting required.
Yeah, Joel?
Madam President, so when you put the rocks in there, that'll kind of help to slow the water down at times at high flow too, won't it?
Madam Chair, Manager Waller, yes.
Yes. And so then the infrastructure that's down below this project would be the main line bridge on the Burlington Northern, which was washed out, you know. So this would be help protect that bridge in the future then also, won't it?
Madam Chair,
Because
Manager
of-
Waller,
by controlling the rate of the flow is what I'm talking about.
somewhat, although the structures are intended to protect the bank because of the way they deflect the flow, they will slow it down somewhat.
Somewhat, yeah.
Although this part of Rice Creek is extremely flashy, so during the highest storms, they probably wouldn't offer a whole lot of additional protection.
Okay.
Okay, anything else? If not, we'll have a motion. Page 27.
Madam President, I move that we approve the draft work plan and timeline as presented and direct staff to submit the materials to BWSR for review.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Matt?
Madam Chair, members of the board, the last item is authorizing the administrator to execute the grant agreement. So this first step, the two motions that you just made were to submit the work plan to Bowser, which they will begin reviewing right away. They might have comments from that. We might have to make some minor changes to the work plan, probably nothing significant. But then the next step is to execute the grant agreement. So beginning on page 35, there's a memo that outlines that, and then there is the actual grant agreement beginning on page 36. The grant agreement is pretty much boilerplate stuff. Every Bowser grantee is required to execute this agreement. For these two projects, Bowser has elected to combine the funding for both grants into a single agreement, so we don't have separate grant agreements. It's just one single agreement for both projects.
Okay, any questions? Comments? If not, I'll have a motion.
Madam President, I move that we authorize the administrator to execute the BWSR grant agreement contained within our packet of materials upon Bowser approval of the work plans for the Bald Eagle Lake Iron Enhanced Sand Filter and Lower Rice Creek Stabilization projects with any non-material changes and upon advice of councils and to be second. Sorry.
Second.
Yeah.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Board President, Board Managers, I just wanted to take this moment again to congratulate you for your leadership. As we noted at the workshop, we received $960,000 in the Bowser Clean Water Legacy competitive grant pool this year. That was the highest of any local government in that pool in the entire state of Minnesota, so congratulations to you. I also wanted to thank project managers Axtell and Koshin for a great job developing this grant and moving this forward. I think we have a good level of respect and rapport given our track record of outcome-based projects that we not only build efficiently, but show the results with our monitoring program and follow-up programs. So I think that definitely is a testament to you for your commitment and continued funding of these programs, and then to the staff as well as the rest of the team. It's not just Matt and Kyle, but they rely on all of us in the office, folks that help put this all together and get this out, as well as Houston Engineering for the project's designs as well. So congratulations. I wanted to thank everybody for this.
And I want to thank all the staff also.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Matt.
Yeah.
The credit should go that they've designed this and they've been very front-ended with a lot of information that helps that decision to be made downtown. And that's been the key to the success of much of the grant money that's been received over the years. It's knowing how to write those grants.
Well, I think there's a trust factor at this point,
Yeah,
too.
yeah, that they believe in what we're doing.
Yeah.
Okay, check register.
Madam President, I move to approve the check register dated March 13th, 2019, in the amount of $38,967.69 prepared by Redpath and Company.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, engineer update. Any questions for the engineer? Anything new, Chris?
Madam President, Board of Managers, I'll just note one item on there. We actually just recently submitted our first package of data to the DNR for that FEMA modeling project. So I guess in brief summary, we've gotten the initial models completely done now and have them all run for a variety of different rainfalls. DNR is now going to be reviewing them and getting back to us, and then we'll have another submittal of information that will go to them toward the end of June there that has more information like floodways and those kind of items.
Good. Anything else? Any questions?
Board President, Board of Managers, if you wouldn't mind, wanted to just highlight the calendar for you. It's a very exciting and active time for Rice Creek Watershed District in the next month or two, with many exciting things happening. I am testifying tomorrow night at the, for the House file related to the CARP bill, the mod CARP bill. They have asked me to testify with the chief author in the House for that bill, Representative Bernardi, in our district, of course. We had 3 signatories to that bill, and with Bernardi being the lead author in the House. The testifying in the Senate has already taken place. As you are aware, the 21st, which is next Thursday, 6:30 at Hugo City Hall, is the public hearing for JD3 repair report. We have an after-board meeting, TAC meeting, a city-county partner meeting at 1 o'clock at the library across the parking lot on the 27th of March. That is for Chapter 4, discussions with the city and county partners in the TAC meeting, 1 o'clock again at the library on the 27th. On the 10th, after your board meeting, right away after your board meeting on April 10th, we will have the water planning workshop with the board for Chapters 5 and 6.
What time's your testimony?
5 o'clock.
Thank you.
Sounds like we're gonna be busy.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Phil. Managers updates. Manager Waller.
Nothing?
Manager Bradley.
You probably saw that the Ramsey County Soil and Water Conservation Division on next Monday, the 18th, from 4 to 6 o'clock, is having a presentation on harmful algae blooms and potential water quality challenges in Ramsey County, and I intend to attend that.
Very good. Manager Wayman?
Nothing.
And I have nothing new, so we can adjourn. Need a motion?
Move to adjourn.
Second?
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.